Hello, selectors, and welcome back to the Life Burst Podcast. I'm your host, Tiffany. How was my Andrew impression?
Hi. It was pretty good, I think.
Are you making fun of me?
Hot take, aggro, but now I'm mid-range, and...
How very dare you, sir? I have a lot of very important insights, though I may have my biases.
Hey, Tiffany, how was your Pokemon week?
Pokemon week?
Oh, it was just me playing Pokemon nonstop since the
That's
release.
true. I haven't, seen or spoken to you in a week. You've just been on the couch playing Pokemon this whole time.
I was up till 4 a.m. last night. I will admit that.
But this isn't a Pokemon podcast. It's a Wixoss podcast.
That's true. It is a Wixoss podcast.
How was your Wixoss week?
It's actually been pretty good. You and I tied for second place at our locals.
I think we did tie.
We did. And
technically,
for a surprising reason.
We were both playing green decks.
We both played green decks.
Actually, yeah, that is... Oh, yeah. I think we were the only people playing green.
We're probably the only people playing green, period.
At all.
Wixoss, yeah.
Sound off if you're also playing green, because this is going to be the podcast for you.
Yeah, this is the podcast called Why Green is Good. That's right. We're doing it. We're doing the complete reversal of what I normally say.
I'm also going to call this podcast Justice for Green.
It is kind of Justice for Green.
Justice for Green.
So, guys, I know I have been pretty malicious in my ridicule of green. And even Tiffany, who loves the color green,
I love that green,
has been honest with her opinions on green.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I have to be objective as a player. And green is probably my favorite color, next to maybe white.
We had a tiny splash of green in the top 8 of the third ceremony, not the fourth ceremony. The fourth ceremony, there was 0 green whatsoever. There was the Umir deck in the third ceremony that had green in it. And then in the second ceremony, there was no green decks. Mm-hmm. And the first ceremony, there was, 1. So this just goes to show...
It's been slowly tapering off.
What it's been like. But I think Tiffany and I've been thinking about green quite a lot. So
have I. I always have green on my mind.
It all started when I did the Bang Demon team. Mm-hmm. And I was like, there's so much damage output in Bang, right? Like it has, when it comes into play, the opponent basically sacks a Signy. And then it has Lancer every turn, so if you can get yourself to turn 5, which is not super difficult in the current meta, that's Lancer on turn 3, Lancer on turn 4, Lancer on turn 5. That's 4 damage in the Elrig deck contained within 1 card. That's massive.
That's a lot.
And it's just like, why isn't green? And so I kind of started doing this pondering of how do I understand the exact reasons as to why green is not good, and how do we fix that? Mm-hmm. Because there's actually a lot of things that a lot of people are noticing in Wixoss that they don't necessarily like, that the meta's too strong in. And I've actually heard people say, yeah, I wish there was more ways to make H2O worse, because it's blue's really good. And the answer is...
Blue is extremely strong right now.
Blue is extremely strong right now, but a good foil to H2O is Lancer. If you kill it with Lancer, you still get the damage done. It is removed from field due to vanish, not due to a vanish effect, due to battle. Mm-hmm. So it just dies, and it's a clean way to deal with it. Mm-hmm. And also people will say things like Exia. Lancer's a clean way to deal with that too. Green theoretically has all of the tools necessary to help balance out the meta, but players aren't playing it right now. Mm-hmm. I think for a good reason. I think green's not known for its standout, oh my god, this is Kentucky, this is Exia cards, you know? Mm-hmm. But it could be good. And so that was where I was coming at it from this understanding of I want to try to find a way to make it good. Plus there's always this one person in the loot card tournament who plays, I think his handle is Extreme Bystander. He always plays Senga. And every time he plays Senga, I always it always hits in such a weird way that I'm like he has an idea of how to play Senga that it's just on another level, and he can exploit smaller cracks in the meta than I'm used to. And I'm inspired off of Anthony. I want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I
want to get with some spicy tech.
Yeah, you on the other hand, just enjoy green, and
I just like the vibe. I think I've talked about this before. Actually, we went into this with my interview with Autumn. I'm just like a very like feel it, vibe it kind of player. And I just really vibe with green. I really like the Lancer ability. I like the team pump abilities that are typical with green. I like that green has green is more akin to defense, which I really like. I've always liked playing like heavy defense in other games. And I just would really like green to be a stronger color in the meta. I feel like it gets ignored, and I would like to fix it, please, because I want Ott to be much more optimal than how we're playing her right now, or I like to be able to play a really strong wolf deck, or, I never see a center Sangha, except for you said that there was one person in the loot card that does it, but I've never seen it in any of the ceremonies or any of our locals, so I just want there to be more green, especially with the gigantic blue presence that we've been feeling, followed very closely by white.
Yep.
I would like more green, please.
I'd say there's an overwhelming black presence in the meta right now.
It's all there is now, thanks to DXM.
Yeah, it's all in the assist slot. But it is there is an insane amount of black presence in the meta.
Yeah, but there's just not a whole lot of green. Like, you don't even see a lot of it in the assist lines.
No. But that's kind of one of the interesting things is if you actually play like mono blue, it's pretty much a terrible color. Mono white is doable. Mono red is doable. Mono black is a terrible color, but black enables so many, like, it just enables blue to hum. It enables these other decks to hum. And weirdly enough, you can use it in green to sort of enable green to hum a little bit. But you got second using Ott the other day.
I did.
And the reason was,
I don't know.
We forgot Umir. We just forgot Umir.
That's true. I was supposed to play Umir, but we accidentally left that deck at home. Luckily, we had Ott, and just nobody saw it coming. Which is good, because I haven't played that deck in a long time, and I was very rusty. I knew I was making mistakes, but.
So, speaking of Ancient Surprise, you got an Ancient Surprise in the mail today.
I did. And let me tell you, it's gorgeous. So, for those of you that have been listening to the podcast for a long time, one of our favorite custom Wixoss card makers is Lucky Yuki. Lucky Yuki recently released some pre-orders for some Ancient Surprise like playmats and enamel pins and level 0 Larigs, and I am not ashamed to say that I wailed out and I pre-ordered the double playmat bundle that came with the 2 different Ancient Surprise playmats, the 3 enamel pins, and all of the level 0 Ancient Surprise girls. And it is so beautiful. Like, I was opening this up and I was like, the actual like quality of the playmats is fantastic. I'm sure some of you actually have Lucky Yuki playmats already, but the colors are really vibrant, and I am very happy to say that the enamel pins are squarely in the center of my Ita school bag that I take with me to work. And they look great. Just really good quality. I'm honestly very happy that I got in on that pre-order.
Yeah, one of the cool things too that we're doing is with the Ott deck, since it is more for blinging than it is for super competitive play. We have the clear sleeves that you use to put them out, so we have both sides of the level 0s.
Yeah, I can just like pick what vibe of level 0 I want in the day, if I want like the new Diva format Ancient Surprise, or if I want the
Cthulhu
Princess Dark Ancient Surprise, which I love those designs. I think they came out so good. Thank you, Lucky. Make sure that you check out, I think it's luckycustoms.com.
Yeah, the link's below.
The links are below. Check her stuff out. It's really great. I do love the center Ott deck. I would love to try and play a mono green deck, but the biggest problem with green is it just doesn't have the card pool to support it right now.
It's true. Yeah, let's go into
get into
identifying what makes green bad, right? Because if we can identify the potential pitfalls of green, we can do solutions to make it better.
Yeah, and we're putting bad in like quotation marks. Like we're only saying it's bad because it's hard to make it optimal right now.
Right.
As we always say, play whatever makes you happy. Ott makes me happy. I still play it.
Right. And so
but I want it to be stronger.
Right. So if I were to say, Tiffany, what are the standout, and I don't mean like good, I mean literally the standout breakout cards in green. Let's start with level 1. What do you got?
I think Mirai is pretty good.
Yeah, I think Mirai is pretty good. I think that's maybe that's not the exact card that I was thinking of in terms of the best card. That's the second card. But Mirai, its ability, what does it do?
When it enters the battlefield, you can claim it as any color.
Right.
Which is exceptionally good for things like World Reverse.
Mm-hmm.
But it also makes it really what's it called? It's really like flexible.
Yes.
In any deck. Even if you have like a small splash of green, you can still claim it as another color, which is very nice. It also has another ability. Is constant. This Signy cannot be banished by the effects of your opponent's level 1 Signy.
Right. So
which is also nice. It's got some good defense.
It's immune to Ramel. It's immune to PA. It's immune to level 1s that have souls attached to them. It's got a pretty good life burst in the fact that it stops the damage and kind of enercharges you. And also a weird wacky thing is it's actually immune to like Celebre life bursts, for example.
Oh yeah.
Because it doesn't stay on your opponent's turn. It's all the time. So there's random times that it's just way better than it should be. But like that's the thing is that the ceiling's high on this card, but the floor is also kind of high. It's good in Senga. It's good in rainbow decks, right?
Yeah, it's very good in rainbow decks.
Not so great in other decks. The other card that I can think of right off the top of my head that is the standout card would be Parajulius. Parajulius, sorry, we have a dog.
We have a dog.
Parajulius has the ability to basically, if you've charged this turn, more or less, you can pay 2, and then you can vanish target Signy on the opponent's field with power 8,000 or less.
Yes.
It's at level 1, which is pretty good. The hard thing about Parajulius is in order to enable Parajulius, you need to charge. It's an early game play, so you need to charge on turn 1 or 2, and the easiest way to do that is to have a green assist. So it doesn't actually help you if you're having a green center.
And you don't have a green assist additionally.
Right. See how that works?
Yeah, it's also okay like later on in the game because then you'll have more ways to charge.
Totally.
And more ways to pay. Like if you have this out turn 1, you don't have to enter to pay for that, let alone a way to charge to activate it.
Yeah.
But it's pretty good like after turn 2 to 2.5. It's not bad. It helps you stay under limit as well because it's a level 1.
Correct, and that's where it really shines. But it's not helping you in your early game, which does matter. And as a level 1, you want your level 1s to be good in the early game, good in the late game, right? For Haket, for example, which is our go-to card that we talk about, that helps.
That's for blue.
Yeah, for blue, but that helps early game and late game. You're never sad to see it.
Yeah.
And that's really it for level 1s that are really, really good in green. Now, if we talk about level 2s, there's probably one right off the top of your head, Tiffany, that you can do, right? It's got a life burst.
Ah, yes, my favorite, Akufuku.
Right, Akufuku.
I do love Akufuku. It just is rough when it comes about 2 attacks too late.
Yeah, but it is good. It wins you games. I mean, look, let's talk about. I was about to not win my last match of the night, and I had 3 Akufukus. One was 2 were in my hand, and 1 was in the trash. And I looked at the last life burst last card in my life cloth, and I said, "Okay, Akufuku, this is your time. I know it's not you, but I want you to be there because if it's you, I win this game. And then I flipped it over, and it was the Akufuku.
Yes.
And I won that game, and I had no right to win that game.
Well, you did, because you flipped a life burst and you put it in your deck, keeping in mind, this is going to save me the game if I flip this life burst, which is why you put things like Akufuku or for blue Focalore in your decks.
Right. And outside of that, there's really only one other good green card for level 2s. And Tiffany, what do you think it could be?
Is that Churden, Natural Planet?
Yep. A natural
Chuden.
plant. It's a plant.
Plant.
Dual Masters, by the way.
I think I said that.
You said natural planet.
No, I said that when we were like first looking at stuff, and I was like, Natural Planet, and you were like, it's a plant, and I'm like, it's a plant. It says, enter this Signy entered the field. Oh, sorry. If this Signy entered the field in your center Signy zone, enter charge 1. It's pretty great.
Yeah, it's literally just a level 2, right?
Mm-hmm.
That can enter charge for free.
Mm-hmm.
That also can attack, right? It doesn't say it needs to down itself or anything.
Yeah, it just enters and it does the thing,
Yeah.
which I love. I love it when it enters and it just does the thing.
Yeah, totally. And then
There's also some good multis in there, but we love a good multi.
yeah, but it's unfair to say this. I feel like you're scratching at the bottom of the barrel then by saying like, yeah, this card exists. It's not strictly green. It's a multi.
I mean, you caught me, but this is what it's like dealing with the card pool for green.
Right.
It doesn't have too bad level 3 those. Although there's far and few between, its level 3s are not bad.
They're okay. Yeah. And I mean, what is the level 3 green that you're sticking in pretty much every green deck?
I think that the most popular level green would be Osagetsune.
Yeah, Osagetsune. I mean, you enter charge
Or
and
Osagetsune is the other way that I've heard it pronounced, which is probably the correct way.
but it has the ability to basically kill everything, right? Like, yes, 12,000 and above, but its ability also allows you to target other Signy on your opponent's field and raise that number to above 12,000 so you can kill it.
A little here you go, goodbye.
And the only enabler you need is that you need to enter charge, and let's be honest, there's not like any green level 3 center Elrigs that don't enter charge.
Yeah.
They all pretty much do the same thing, which
Yeah.
is enter charge.
Or Harana. For some reason, Harana enter charges.
Yeah, well, red does it sometimes.
It does it sometimes.
But then after that, you end up getting pretty close to the bottom of the barrel. There's really no card here that I'm confident of, like, I want 4 of these. Except for one, which is your Ancient Surprise girl.
Yes, Azathoth.
Yeah.
I actually do love Azathoth in the Ott deck. I know that some secret rares can kind of be meh when they're, like, team-specific, but Azathoth is actually pretty strong.
Yeah.
I think it was built well.
Azathoth is like a slightly worse Osagetsune, which is fine because Osagetsune's good.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, you end up with more cards that you can fill out your deck with. But then from there on, you end up with some ones that are good but maybe more situational. Like, for example, you have Amino Acid, which is good against your opponent if your opponent's playing a lot of black.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Quinn, which is good if your opponents are playing a lot of small Signy, right?
You've got Robin Hood if you're a weirdo and you like weird stuff in your deck that sometimes works, maybe.
Yeah. You've got Demeter if you're a rainbow deck, right? But none of
You've
these...
got Influendy if you have 3 green and 3 anything.
Yeah, you don't have Influendy.
You don't have
is not a great
Influendy.
card.
Don't even lie to
So
me.
yeah, you end up just with like the fact that this is the bare bones, right?
Yeah.
And it's so much easier to look into red and be like, all right, what's a core of red that you can do? Ramel, Hera, Lancelot, the Enterburn one at level 2.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you're running Diabride. You've got like a team specific thing. Like,
Maybe Buffalo.
Yeah. You've got all these options here, right? And that's we just picked a color at random and did that for it. But green doesn't really have that. So when you look at the amount that green has, you end up with like it depends on the deck, right? So the Ott deck can do it the most successfully because Ott makes really good use of those Mirais and really good use of Azathoths. And because of that, it ends up having a pretty solid green core. The problem is, though, if you're Bang or Senga, you don't have all of those cards to choose from, right? The lack of Azathoth is actually very noticeable.
Yeah.
And you can't just be like, well, let me go ahead and fill in with other colors, because
You kind of have to.
right, but that's a problem too, because if you go lower than 20 green cards, you're risking not being able to grow from your center Elrig.
Right.
So, and then when you're like, all right, well, let me put green in as a support color. What does green as a support get you? The closest that you get right now is Bang to Capo. You can get a little bit of Enter Charge in the beginning, and then you can get a pretty okay version of Madoka Clap.
Yeah, I mean, it prevents damage is the thing. It doesn't down a Signy, it doesn't vanish a Signy. It doesn't negative Signies to the point where they're vanished from the field anyway. It just prevents damage.
Yes, there are instances where my opponent is playing a Bang to Capo, and I'm like, yep, that's not going to stop my Phalaris, though. And so, you know, like, it's here, neither here nor there. All I'm saying is that a Bang to Capo is a pretty okay Elrig assist, and Senga, I want it to be an okay Elrig assist. It's level 2 costs too much to be an okay level 2 assist, but it's level 1 gives Freelancer, and that's always pretty good. But that's it, right? The well runs dry right around there.
That's it. That's literally the best that we could really pick out. There are other cards too, but we feel like these are the best picks for green.
Right, and let's talk about green's strengths, right? Because those things lead themselves to green's strengths, right? Green's strength is as follows. 1, you have more enter than you know what to do with.
That is true.
And that's good when there's a specific, very strong S-tier deck that tries to kill you by getting rid of your enter. You end up being like, no.
Nope.
It has a ton of enter sinks, right? Some decks just, like, once they're done playing out their Elrig deck, they just don't have any other things to put enter into. And so it's just a lack of resource that they're using at that point. Lancer itself is a beautiful answer to most problematic Signy. Most problematic Signy are problematic because they have a strong constant ability. But you know what stops their constant ability?
Being vanished.
Being gone.
Getting gone.
So if you have an Osagetsune, and you have something else with Lancer, right? You could kill an Exia with the thing with Lancer, and then attack with your Osagetsune, use its Osagetsune ability, and Exia's not on the field anymore, so see you later.
Yeah, exactly.
You can open up more lanes with that.
Yeah.
So Lancer is actually a wonderful solution to a lot of these problematic Signy. H2O, for example, is another one. And there's going to be Remember in the next set coming out. That's going to be annoying to deal with. But green also has Team Pump. So if you're like 13k is too high, you're like, not really.
Yeah.
You have Osagetsune, you have Amino Acid, you have like all these other rando things that just give a team, like just a pump, right? Like Ott itself just gives a random pump.
Yes. Yeah, it's like, hey, something gets plus 5,000. Here you go.
Yeah.
Which is actually pretty great for something like Azathoth that wants to be bigger to be able to do what it wants to do. So you just give it to Azathoth right away if you don't have something else like amino acid to automatically pump it up. And then it's done. Activated. The end.
Cool. So we have discussed why green isn't good and what are the strengths of green, right? And I forgot one more strength. One more strength of green is that it vanishes upwards, right? So some of these
What do you mean by that?
Well, like some of the life bursts say 7,000 and up powered life burst, vanish that, which can be it can be good in your favor when the opponent is, generally speaking, attacking with their smaller stuff first and leaving their big important Signy back. Because they're like, you don't have any vanished up. And then you flip like a Tasmanian, which vanishes 7,000 and more. And you're like, all right, see you later, H2O. Like, doesn't matter how big it is, it's gone. Right? And the team pump is relevant when you're playing against black decks. Like, that is true.
Yes, for sure.
Sometimes strangely relevant against red decks. Sometimes red assists don't say vanish target Signy. They say vanish Signy with power 12,000 or below.
Mm-hmm.
And you can catch them off guard with it, right? Huron Stomp, for example, 12,000 or below.
Mm-hmm.
So these are the strengths of green.
Mm-hmm.
The pitfall of green, the real pitfall of green, isn't necessarily that the power cards aren't there. It's just they're too few, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's just not a critical mass.
Yeah, there's just not a big enough card pool to really maximize not only the build of your deck, but the qualities of the card within it. So if you want to play any sort of green, you're kind of almost stuck just playing a good stuff deck, which isn't wrong, and it's not like that's not viable. It's just that's very hard to optimize to become extremely competitive with it.
But how do we optimize it then?
We wait for future sets.
Yes, arguably in future sets there will be stronger
We'll
cards.
get to that in a second, but you support it with other colors at
Right,
this point.
right.
So, like I said, the Ott deck that we're running right now is viable. Is it optimal? It's arguable. I think I play it relatively well, but it's supported by other colors.
Right.
And there's just a variety of support that exists for green within rainbow decks.
Mm-hmm.
Like rainbow decks, I feel do want the green splash in them more than like other decks. Like they want like a green, blue, red sort of vibe.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be something coming out that has more support for rainbow outside of just Ancient Surprise, which in the past has also supported a rainbow deck.
Yeah, Senga 2.0 is going to have more rainbow support in it.
Yeah.
But outside of that, right, you're playing Ott. What is the glue card in your deck? And it's not a green card.
The glue card?
Yeah, the card that makes the whole deck still function.
The piece? World's Reverse?
Sure, which it does draw you cards, you're not wrong, but it requires you to be a blue, red, and a green team. So yes, that's multicolored, you're not wrong. But the level 1 Signy that we're always using.
Haket? Or
It's
Mirai?
It's Haket. Haket's the glue. Right?
You think Haket is the glue?
Yeah, because you can get rid of all the bad green cards that aren't relevant yet and find the green cards that are relevant when you need them.
I suppose so.
So if you're not like you're doing a lot of filtering. I mean, like you may not even realize how much filtering you're doing, but how often are you bottoming 3 or bottoming 2 with Haket?
Often, especially if Haket's in my like opening hands, and then I can just do early digs. And then especially with World's Reverse, I can draw whatever I put on top of it.
Right. So you're using these blue effects to smooth out your green inconsistencies.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And with the red, it's helping to support the removal where green is normally defending. Or defending.
Another example would be, I think, everyone's taken this one. This is not new tech, right? But you can just put Machina in there. Look, Machina
is a great assist. We get it.
Yeah, but it allows you to reuse a level 1, right? So if you need your Parajulius, now that it's level 2 and you have access to some kind of Enter charge, you can do it. Mm-hmm. And if you are bringing back your Osagetsune because you only have 4 Osagetsune in the deck with the Machina Smash, you can do that, right? So Black's Recursion helps you smooth out your green inconsistencies as well. And another way to do it would be with White, right? White's got less tools, but it has a few, right? And this is something I've been reticent to learn, but I'm learning in my my Uchu deck that I'm running Peng for, is that Honials do a really great job of coming out early and finding me guards.
Yes.
Which green
Level 2 or less, baby.
Right. Green distinctly has no real great way to do that.
Not particularly.
But also, I'm not running the draw 2 off of the original Tamago. I'm using the one that bottoms, Tamago Beating. And because of that, my opening hands are kind of a wreck. I need ways to smooth them out. And I do that through Hakets and through Honials.
Yeah, but again, that's blue. That's not green.
Right, exactly. So, but you're supporting your green.
Yeah, you're supporting your green with other colors. That's kind of the best option that you have.
Right. I would rather there just be a critical mass of good green cards. Don't get me wrong. We're not saying, hey, what's the most optimal strategy? The most optimal strategy is don't play green. We're saying the most optimal strategy is to repair green's inconsistencies with other colors. And this is to say that green actually has cracks in this meta that you might not be realizing it because most people just aren't bringing green decks to the table.
Ooh, expose them.
Well, I mean, like we said, right? Exia just gets destroyed by green decks.
Well, also Ott's ability, because Ott's ability doesn't target anything on the field.
Correct.
Goodbye Exia, goodbye Kome, just gone.
As soon as Remember's back in the field.
H2O,
right?
bye.
Like, as soon as Remember exists in this next set, which is just going to be this really annoying 13k, every green removal gets rid of it. So it's fine. It's just par for the course for green. And then H2O, like I said, Lancer is a great way to do it. And you might think, well, what if you don't have the team pump thing? Well, you're probably running Quinn, which is shrinking it anyways. So you're going to be able to Lancer through it. Like, that's my point. Is like, there's just no point in time where green does not Lancer through an H2O. Unless you don't have the Lancer is the issue. So there are ways to make green good. You just need to understand why green isn't good.
So then you can make green good.
Right. So you can repair its inconsistencies and really let its strengths shine. Right. And well, the cool thing with Lancer too is like if your opponent vanishes something with Lancer, especially like with Bang where the Lancer was free, you didn't put Enter into it. So I don't care. That's fine. You know, that's like it's better for me. It means that I got to save Enter. And I really want people to listen to this podcast and be encouraged. Like, maybe I should try out a green center. Maybe I should try out Ott, you know?
Yeah. I mean, you've already been testing Bang as your center. We certainly have not built a mono green deck because, as we've said before, we don't really think that's a super good idea right now.
I have been working very hard to make Bang 2.0 very good. And I think it is. I've gotten to a point where actually I think it's much better than what the Japanese meta was giving it credit for. Because it can put out a lot of damage. And the Lancer is just a very, 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 very good keyword ability that people just aren't really recognizing yet.
I agree. I would love for there to be a stronger Lancer presence. I also think that green could get some stronger spells. We've spoken before that I actually think that Polygenesis is not too bad of a spell, especially if you're running it with something like Ancient Surprise, or if you're running it with a predominantly green deck, because it's very cheap, it only costs 1, and it gets you back a green Signy from your Enter Zone, which is great if you're Enter charging a lot, so you have almost an entire other library, whereas black predominantly deals with the trash. Green will be dealing with the Enter Zone, so if you're Enter charging a lot, then you can you've much more options.
Right.
With the team ability, it says you can get back anything, any Signy, which is great because then you can basically pay a green to get back a guard, which we like. But there's also another card coming out in the future sets called Ai, I think it is. Ai. Yeah, I think that's it. And it says it's a level 2 8,000 Signy, green, of course. It says action, down, this Signy, whatever. Put target Signy from your Enter Zone onto your field, which is pretty good, if you ask me.
So and it's 8,000 power.
Yeah.
So you might be thinking, well, it downs itself, so it must not be good. But let's do the comparison here between Polygenesis, the card that you were just discussing.
Yeah.
With Ai. The comparison, I think, is more favorable for Ai. And the reason why is that it's a Signy. It can be picked up by green by white effects or black effects, put back into your hand, right? It can go on the field, and even if you down
it's a spell that blocks.
Yeah, it blocks, right?
That's what I say.
And you're not really looking to use this deck in the typical bash deck. You can always sacrifice it if you're like, yeah, I need to have some action there. You can always sacrifice it, and it ends up being this. But it's free, is the other part. It doesn't cost any Enter. But it has some upsides that people aren't really expecting. For example,
Let us hear it.
Black will often get in a scenario where late game they might have some recursion cards, but they have no enter sinks. So because of that, they can't really take the card out of their enter, put it into the trash, and then get it out of the trash for their hand, right? This bypasses that. Just says directly from enter, bring it back into the play. This plays really nice, for example, with Komai. Komai decks often will want to enter starve the opponent, so they are looking for this to be downed. They're not looking to attack with this anyways. And then they've got the 2 Signy plus the Komai that you just brought back to down, and oh, look at that, you've got the ability to attack twice with your Elrig. So there's reasons as to why her card
attack twice with your Signy?
Yeah. There's reasons why her card is more interesting than I think people will give credit for it immediately. I think the more important part is, one, it's a good green deck. It's a good green card that can go in pretty much any green deck and be fine. That says a lot when we need critical mass for green. The other thing to say for it is that it gives green filtering, selection, and reusability of other cards that it didn't have before. Something we were discussing.
It recycles.
Yeah. It absolutely does recycle. Which is something green didn't have prior, and we had to fill with other colors. So bringing it back into its own fold is nice.
Yes. We love a good self-contained synergistic color.
Yeah, absolutely.
That can support itself. Yeah. I am excited for future decks. I think that we will be seeing a lot more support, and those can make a huge difference.
Yeah, I mean, for example, here's a fun line of play that I'm just thinking. Clearly, I've got too much Anthony on the brain. With Nova's ability, where you can stab the... She's just laughing at me.
It's like... Okay.
with Nova's ability to take something from your trash, put it to the top of your deck, right? You could theoretically put this card to the top of your deck. You draw it, right, on your next turn. But the card that you really wanted was on the field. Now it's vanished because they had their turn.
Oh.
And then you play that.
And then you can
bring
play it
back,
again.
right? So this way, you actually enable Nova to immediately get you your cards back instead of constantly being like, I need to wait a turn and I'm at the mercy of discard decks.
Yeah, see, this is what I'm saying. I think that green and white are going to be a bit of a power couple.
Yeah, I think green and black can also do it.
Yeah,
Maybe
green
not
and
in
black,
this set,
sure.
but in the next set.
Green and black, sure. But I know that blue and white have been playing very well together, and I would love to see some green and white kind of give them a run for their money.
Totally agree. So I think that very much talks about everything that we wanted to talk about with green.
For green, yeah. Basically, this is just being like, Takara Tomy, can you please make green stronger and or better, please? Because I really, really like this color, and I won't stop playing it, so I just want a little bit of a bigger card pool.
Yeah.
We haven't even talked about the pieces, but, you know.
Well, yeah, and there's some green pieces, right? Like the double Lancer one is pretty cool. Where but that requires you to have 2 green Elrigs, which might double down on your problem.
Which doesn't really work, as we've said.
Since you need other colors to
There's also
it.
future code, but it's like, okay.
Yeah, it's only okay now.
It's only okay right now,
It hasn't aged well.
Yeah, that's kind of why we didn't really get into the pieces. But yeah, I think that does pretty much wrap up everything that we have to say. If you guys are green stands like us, please leave your deck builds in the comments section down below. I do really want to play more, a wider variety of green decks, because, you know, I'm very much like, I will play Ott until I cannot anymore. And you're a big fan of Bang. So if you're like a Sangha center, or if you're like a VJ Wolf center, let us know in the comments down below. If you don't like green, also let us know in the comments below.
Tell us why.
Tell us why. In the meantime, may you always flip a life burst, and we will see you next time.
And that life burst better be Akufuku.
It better be Aku.